I don't mean to be offensive, but Christians sort of pick and choose the version of Christianity that they like and only believe in those miracles. So Protestants know very well that the Roman Catholic Church claims miracles. The Orthodox Church claims that with these relics that it uses routinely, miracles are performed. I don't see you joining the Orthodox Church. Why?
Good morning, William, and good morning, Rabbi Tovia. I've been looking to your show since 2021. It's been over 2 years, a little more. I'm also a subscribed member. Guys, I really love you. I'm crazy. Like Tovia Singer, such a smart person. I have never seen such a smart person as he is. The way Rabbi Tovia talks and explains. He's explaining amazingly. If you're listening to him, like, it's so amazing. You cannot ignore the fact. The way I'm calling, do you really guys believe? Are you guys serious? Do you really guys believe this guy named Jesus Christ? Proverbs chapter 30 verse 4 says, what is his name and what is his son's name? Who's ascended in heaven and then got the wings in his feet? Israel doesn't have a wings in his feet. And then Israel cannot do all these miracles. In the Proverbs, I know Jesus did a lot of miracles. Tovia Singer said the miracles could be done by other powers except from the God. But when Jesus calls Lazarus to come out, the life is something only held by God. If any person can bring the death to the life, God can only do that, because life is held by God. Jesus calling Lazarus, come out, and then Lazarus coming out. So that means he was God. Now, again, about Proverbs 30 verse 4, when Agar says, what is his name and what is the name of his son? So here is the deal. Yahweh is just, I am who I am. So that's the reason we have to believe what is his name and name his son, because his son is not Israel in this case, because the Proverbs says, who ascends to heaven and who has the wings in his feet? What's his name and name of his son? Israel does not have the wings in his feet. So I just want Tovia to comment on this. That's it. Thank you. Bye.
Well, there's two parts there that should be unpacked. One of them is Jesus purportedly resurrecting Lazarus from the dead, and that's in John chapter 11. And he's also asking about Proverbs chapter 30, verse 4. Let's just sort of take this apart piece by piece. Who has ascended to heaven, who has come down, who has gathered the wind in his fist, who has wrapped the waters in his garment, who's established all the ends of the earth. What is his name and what is his son's name? What you've done is you've conflated the son with whoever can do all these things, can go up to heaven, can gather the wind in his garment and in his fist. As it turns out, the term my son is used more frequently in the book of Proverbs than any other book in the entire Bible. And who is God's son? It's the one who has wisdom. How does the book of Proverbs begin? Shema b'ni musar avicha ve'al titaish Toras imecha. Listen, my son, to the admonishment of your father, and do not abandon the Torah or teachings of your mother. So there it is. And throughout the book of Proverbs, you have my son who's the one who has wisdom. My son fears the Lord, king, and he doesn't do otherwise, Proverbs chapter 5. All the way through, we're being told about who God's son is. And we're told in the Torah that Israel is God's son, his firstborn son, Exodus chapter 4, verse 22. In fact, famously in Hosea chapter 11, verse 1, we are told, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt have I called my son. And one thing to be very aware of, when the Bible is talking about Israel as God's firstborn son or God's servant, it is not talking about every single Jew on the planet. Rather, it's talking about those who are loyal to God and those who have the wisdom that's personified in the book of Proverbs. Wisdom is that element of God that even could be walking down the street. That's what God's true son is those who've adopted that. So don't conflate the two. The one who gathers the wind in his fist, this all-powerful one, is not who God's son is. Now, we don't talk this way, and I imagine for many of the people who are watching me now, who are listening to my voice, when you hear God's son, you're thinking of some Christology because you very likely live in a Christian country. But in the Torah, God's son is the one who follows in the path of God. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, God makes a promise to King David, refers to his son who will build a house in my name. It's referring to King Solomon there. Doesn't mean that King Solomon is God in any way, okay? So be very careful. And this is something that keeps coming up in this show a lot, and it's very important that you disabuse yourself of our current conventional language and rather look at the way the Tanakh speaks. So God's son is the one who follows in his way, is the one who is God's servant. Atam Edainu Hashem, you are my witnesses, declares the Lord. Avdi Asher B'charti, my servant whom I have chosen, so that you should know, believe, and understand that I am God. Before me no God was formed, neither will there be one after me. So it's not talking about every Jew. It's talking about those who are loyal to God. Now, those who are loyal to God bring back the rest of the Shiftei Yaakov, the tribes of Jacob, see Isaiah 49, verse 6, and are light to the Gentiles. So, as an example, Karl Marx technically was born to Jewish parents. He's not who God has in mind as his son. Karl Marx despised the God of Israel. He was an opponent of the Jewish faith. He was an implacable opponent of Israel. He was really a self-hating. It's hard to even call him a Jew. He was a fierce anti-Semite. He was a horrible person. So was Sigmund Freud. This is not who the Almighty has in mind. It's rather a remnant. During the time of Elijah, for example, there were only 7,000 Jewish people that were loyal to God. I don't know how many Jews lived during that time, but I would imagine it would be millions. 7,000 that were truly God's son, the truly followers of God. We see example Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 1. Bonim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. It's the same root. You are children of the Lord your God. So here's what I always want you to do. I want you to read it for yourself, my friend. I want you to go back to the original. You've said some very nice things about me, and I'm very pleased. You think I'm a genius. It's nice to hear, but I'm not a genius. What I think sets me apart from others, maybe, is that I actually go back to the original text and I read the entire book in context. And I want to encourage all of you to go back to the original sources rather than read other people's books, my own included. First, read the original sources. That's all I'm doing with you. There's no magic going on here. All I do with you guys is I say, let's go back to the original sources. I'm going to need you guys to do that for me. You're not going to need me anymore if you do that. Don't be afraid to read the original sources for yourself. Now, Let's talk about Lazarus, who comes up in John chapter 11. He's the person who's sick, who dies, rich guy dies, and 4 days after he's been in the tomb, we are told that Jesus raises him from the dead. Well, I have news for you then. Why don't you become a Roman Catholic? There are people who the Roman Catholic Church identifies as saints who do miracles. In fact, you cannot be a saint in the Roman Catholic Church unless you can document a miracle. So why don't you just go to Rome and convert to the Roman Catholic Church? Why don't you go to Utah and join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? After all, in New York State, in the early 19th century, that's really not long ago at all, a fellow named Joseph Smith encountered an angel Moroni. Why don't you join the Church of Latter-day Saints and become a Mormon? Why not? Tell me. Every religious book I know of purports miracles. The problem, of course, is that the claims of these different religions are at odds with each other. They're making mutually exclusive claims. This is circular reasoning. You believe in Jesus because the New Testament says that Jesus did miracles like raising someone from the dead. You could pick Jairus' daughter as another example. The problem is, by saying that only God could raise someone from the dead, and therefore because Jesus was able to do that with Lazarus, the example you selected, you've got a very big problem. The big problem is that in the Hebrew Bible, Elijah, Elisha, I'd encourage you to read Kings. Both of them resurrected someone who was dead. Does that mean we should worship Elisha? If in fact, if you can raise from somebody from the dead, that means you're God. That's what you've said here. Does that mean, in your view, that Elisha and Elijah are gods? Heaven forbid. Of course, you know better than that. So, as it turns out, in the Hebrew Bible, people are raised from the dead, and we would never worship Elisha. We would never worship Elijah. Never. So that doesn't even mean that. If you read John 11 in context, John is seeking to portray Jesus as, of course, he is the life, and he is showing the glory of the Father is manifested in him. So the author of John is not really making that case, but it wouldn't matter. I mean, there was a guru in India, many of them, who to this day can raise people from the dead. Sai Baba comes to mind. He raised many people from the dead. Does that mean I'm going to move to India and join 30 million followers, many of whom have witnessed this with their own eyes? Okay? So what we do really is we're looking for the truth. You wouldn't be calling into this show if you didn't care about the truth. What I'd encourage you to do is to read the Hebrew Bible. Read about what the Mashiach is supposed to accomplish. One chapter, Isaiah 11, will cure you or anyone of Christianity. There we are told that the central core role of the Messiah is to be a judge, a teacher. He will not judge people after the sight of his eyes, but rather the spirit that God places upon him. And he will fear the Lord. He'll be filled with the fear of the Lord. I like that. The Mashiach will usher in a period where war will come to an end. Do you see what's happening in Syria right now? A wicked government was just overthrown, and its leader fled to Russia. People are dying there right now. They see what's happening in the Gaza Strip. That's in the southwestern part of Israel. Only 60 miles from Jerusalem, there's war. That means the Messiah is not here. Should you take a look at Ukraine? People are dying every day in a bloody war that's gone on for years between that country and Russia. That means the Messiah is not here. Houthis, a tribe in Yemen, are killing each other, killing fellow Arabs, and firing rockets at Israel right now. It means the Messiah is not here. My friends, go back to the original Bible and discover that the Messiah will bring an era of peace where the wolf will lie with the lamb. Well, nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn of war anymore. Where the Jewish people, all of them, will be restored back to the land of Israel. See Isaiah chapter 43. There'll be a temple that will stand in Jerusalem. See Ezekiel 41 through 47. See Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 26 through 28. And notice something about the passages that I'm laying before you. I hope you're looking some of them up. But if you did, you'd find that I'm quoting them in context. They're plain passages that can't be interpreted another way. They're not this vague, odd passage that I'm pulling out of Proverbs, right? It's very simple. And all Christians agree that these passages are about the Messiah. This is the time now for you to turn to the God of Israel. Al tiftechu b'nedivim b'ven adam she'ein lo teshua. Look at the book of Psalms. Put not your trust in princes or the Son of Man, wherein there is no salvation. Don't put your trust in the Son of Man, wherein there is no salvation. What could be more clear? What could be more simple than these eternal oracles conveyed to us by the God of Israel? So it is true that if you look at any holy book, you will discover that its prophet or demigod is able to resurrect people from the dead, heal people. Vespasian was able to do that, according to Josephus. He was able to just touch an eye or a leg and heal cripples and blind people. What does that all mean? I'll tell you what's meaningful. It's a God that can make predictions that we can verify today. So it is true that in the Christian Bible, the claim is made that its founder, Jesus, and his followers are able to do miracles. You'll find the same sort of miracles in other putative holy books. The question is one thing: what does Tanakh say? What does the Hebrew Bible say? Two is go back to the original sources. In the case of Proverbs, you should have no trouble finding passages that describe God's Son or my son, B'ni. Just keep looking it up. It's really very simple. And once you do that, don't be impressed with so-called miracles and claims of miracles. You don't sound like you're Roman Catholic. They claim a whole bunch of miracles. And that's, I think, what Christians do. I don't mean to be offensive, but Christians sort of pick and choose the version of Christianity that they like and only believe in those miracles. So Protestants know very well that the Roman Catholic Church claims miracles. The Orthodox Church claims that with these relics that it uses routinely, miracles are performed. I don't see you joining the Orthodox Church. Why? I mean, that's pretty special to meet an angel in upstate New York, receive gold plates from which the Book of Mormon could be written. I don't see you, So what people are doing is they're just selecting the version of Christianity they like, and then they simply, very selectively, adopt those miracles and ignore the miracles of religions they don't care for. Let's all stop that. Let's go back to the original Tanakh, the original scriptures, where people are resurrected from the dead. Ezekiel witnessed an entire valley of dry bones come to life. That's how Ezekiel 37 begins. Ezekiel was not God. It's time to turn to the God of Israel. Thank you so much for your thoughtful question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ואת נעשה בחפצו כל